Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to Naturally Paige for another Wifey Wednesdays. Today I'm going to be sharing on the topic of premarital counseling. Should I get it? Do we need it? When should we get it? When should we start? If you're interested in hearing what I have to say on this topic, then make sure that you keep on watching. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, turn on your notifications so that every time that I post, you're aware. I don't think that I have ever shared the fact that Marcus and I did premarital counseling before we got engaged. Ooh, what you say, girl? What you mean? So if you live in Jamaica, you would know that premarital counseling is actually required by most officiants, right? You have to go through a period. It ranges from anywhere between 6 to 12 weeks of meeting with a counselor before you get married. Now, I'm sure some of you are wondering, is my business if I want to get married? Why do I need to go through premarital counseling? The truth is that we are a country that still believes in the foundation of marriage and in making sure that it's going to work. So you find that most officiants who tend to be reverends or pastors, they want to make sure that they're actually marrying two people who are ready for marriage. Like, they don't want to be marrying people who they're going to hear in a couple months have broken up or gotten divorced. They want to give you guys the best possible shot at having a successful, thriving, happy, loving marriage. So at our church, how it is done is that you are not necessarily doing your premarital counseling with our pastor. It is done with either a deacon or with one of the counselors, and that's fine by me. We actually asked, is it possible for us to request who we would like to be our counselors? They said sure, and we also asked if we could get a couple. Now, that is not the norm. Normally, it is one person who does a premarital counseling, but we knew that we wanted to have basically a couple that had been through it all, that had really and truly stood the test of time, but also to offer both perspectives. And truth be told, I think that was one of the best decisions we could have made, asking for a couple. It allowed the discussion to be so balanced, and it created so much understanding on the part of Marcus and I of things that we just didn't get, and like being able to hear it from, well, for me, being able to hear it from another man and him being able to hear it from another woman, and these were two people who we respected so much, and to this day still we draw on them for advice and support. You know, it meant a lot to be guided by them. It ended up being that I saw a lot of myself in her and he saw a lot of himself in him. So it really and truly, God definitely kind of put that together to allow us to be in their sphere, for them to be our counselors, and I'm forever grateful to them for those weeks that they had with us. Now, Marcus and I had always discussed that we wanted to do premarital counseling before getting engaged. Now, I know some of you may wonder, why in the world would you do premarital counseling before? Here are some reasons why I would suggest it. Our first reason was that we wanted to ensure, first off, that we wanted to get engaged. The truth is that once you get engaged, the hype, the love, the everything takes over. You get so enthralled by the idea of getting married. You know, you love this person, you just, oh my God, we're planning the wedding and I'm so excited to be his wife, and oh my God, and you just get caught up in the love of it all, you know. And the truth is that sometimes love is blind. Man, sometimes we're real foo-foo. Sometimes we just don't see the red flags because we're engaged and we have a ring on our finger, and it's just kind of like, oh man, I feel like, you know, these red flags have come up, but I can't pull out because, you know, like, we're engaged now, you know, we're planning our wedding, we've made the deposit on the venue. How in the world are we going to come out of this? I give you a story. My dad, who had done premarital counseling, he shared a story about how he was counseling a young couple, and he realized from week 2 that this was not a wise decision for them to get married. Based on the answers that were given, based on the discussions that they were having, he sensed that they would have rocky times down the road. But it's not his place as a counselor to tell them that. This is something that they have to come to a decision on their own. And they went through the premarital counseling, and it ended up being that it was like the second to last session, and the bride goes, I can't do this. And she basically decides that, you know, she's not going to go through with the marriage. No, He told this story to a bunch of us to basically let us understand that just because you've gotten engaged, it doesn't mean you're married yet. It doesn't mean that it's a sure thing. It doesn't mean that you have to get married. And I mean, you can imagine, this is the second to last session, so this is now weeks before their marriage. Everything has been paid for. They've paid for their venue. She's bought her dress. He has paid for his suit. And she calls it off. And he's like, no, baby, I love you. What do you mean? And she's like, no, I can't do this. And why was that? The premarital counseling had brought out certain things, certain red flags that they had chosen to ignore before, right? It came up. It became very eminent, very obvious. And she just reached a point where she's like, I can't live my life like this. Do you want to get to that point? Do you want to have to go through, one, the lost money, but more so the disappointment? Not only the disappointment in your relationship, but also the disappointment of your family and friends. It's not easy trying to break news of a broken engagement. And so I think premarital counseling is so important for really and truly asking the tough questions to see whether or not you should even take the step to engagement. No, I do believe that certain aspects of the premarital counseling should wait until after engagement. For example, the sex, right? Let's not talk about sex and your expectations before you're actually engaged. That can also open up a whole manner of floodgates, understandably. But there's certain fundamental things that you can talk about. You can talk about your core values. You can talk about how your family and what you guys did and what you expect for your own family. Expectations is a huge one that you have to talk about. What do you expect from your wife? Do you expect her to come home each day and cook dinner for you? Is that something you guys have talked about? Does he expect you to continue working after you've had children? Do you expect him to pay all of the bills of the household and you just keep your money, or does he expect you to split it 50-50? These are the kind of discussions that need to be had before engagement, right? Engagement causes us to be caught up in the magic and the fairy tale and the euphoric feeling of it all. And in that time, it can be really hard to come down to earth and be like, yo, but let's fix this. Like, he don't communicate when we fight. He walks out. What do you mean him walk out when they're not fighting? Yeah, man, him drive off, him go about in business. What do you mean? He doesn't sit down and talk things through. She gives you the silent treatment for 3 days? That's not good. All right. Let's just... What you mean? You don't pay bills in your house? No, and your father don't make you pay bills, so your husband need to pay all the bills? What? These are the kind of discussions that you have to have. No, it's okay if you guys are on the same page about stuff, right? But if you don't talk about it, how are you gonna be on the same page? How are you gonna know what the other person is doing? I remember one of the topics for us that I really wanted to discuss at premarital counseling was finances. I was very nervous going into that discussion just because I knew I kind of wanted to handle finances or be a part of it at least. And I was just like, Marcus and I have never really talked about this, about who would handle finances. And it's kind of just like, man, that's weird. I don't want to like ask him, but I don't want to like take away his masculinity by doing so. And it was awkward. So it comes up and he literally goes, boy, you know, Paige has really actually been doing such a good job, even now, like when we need to buy gifts for kids, or, you know, she really actually handles it and we split it, and I really trust her. Oh, yes! Now, can you imagine trying to have that discussion? No, my discussion went well, but can you imagine trying to have the discussion after getting engaged and then finding out, no, boo, you're not going to touch the finances at all. I handle that because I'm the man. Clash. That's a core value. Premarital counseling is meant to bring out your core values so that you know whether or not this is a compatible marriage. Love is not all you need to make a marriage work. Do you want to know why? There are going to be days where you don't feel like loving the person. There are going to be days where you don't feel in love with the person. You know you love them, but you don't really feel it. What is it that's going to keep you together through those days, months, sometimes hard patches of years. What's going to keep you? It's going to be what are the things that were fundamental in your relationship leading up to your engagement. So that's my reason one of why I highly recommend premarital. Engagement allows for this euphoric time, and it is very hard to be objective about your core values and what really and truly matters in a marriage. My next reason why I think premarital counseling before engagement is great is it prepares you for engagement. Engagement it can be very quick. Some persons have a long engagement, but if you have a quick engagement, it's sometimes hard to fit in premarital counseling, and you want to make sure that if there's an issue that comes up, it's something you guys can either work through or decide to not proceed in your courtship with. You want to know that you guys have the time, right? So you want to know that, all right, we'll get through this now, because it's also preparing you for engagement. How are we going to spend the money to do the wedding? How are we going to do XYZ? Where are we going to live? How do we handle the bills that I was paying at my parents' house? Am I still going to contribute to that household as well as ours? It leads into it. So it allows that you've had the hard discussions that have now set the foundation, so that in engagement you can build on it and then transition into marriage. And that brings me to point 3. You want to be able to get guidance. You need it, right? Get a godly person or a godly couple who's going to sit down with you guys and walk you through what marriage is really going to be about. People who care about you, who really want to see your marriage succeed, and who are going to be real with you. Those discussions in premarital counseling for me were some of the frankest discussions Marcus and I had, right? In our entire courtship. And it was because there was somebody objective there to be like, hey Paige, that wasn't really a fair statement. Maybe you need to listen to what Marcus is saying. Hey Marcus, I understand how you feel about this, but you need to listen to how Paige is feeling. Having that third party being able to just really and truly mediate and set an objective tone, it changes how the discussion is had. It doesn't become a winning, like I just want to win and is my point or no point. No. It became more about how can you guys work this out together, and having that third person really makes the difference. Our story was a little different in terms of we started premarital counseling and Marcus proposed to me like when we were 3/4 way through, which ended up being perfect because after we got engaged, we're able to have certain other discussions like the sex week that we spoke about. We were able to have certain very intimate ones that I don't think we should have broached a topic until we were engaged. And then having those persons there before the engagement happened, it allowed a sense of ease and comfort to reach out to them during the engagement. Because let me tell you something, he said the devil, him don't like marriage, none at all, which means he tries to break it up even before you guys are married. Engagement is gonna test your relationship. It's not all happy, it's not all wonderful and just I'm so excited. That's not all it is. It's hard. You're gonna see where all of a sudden when I start to have some fight and you're gonna say, hold on, they will never fight like this before. It's prepping you for marriage. Now can you imagine planning a wedding, dealing with all of the attacks from the enemy because you're about to be married, and then on top of that, you're trying to fit in premarital counseling and you're going to try and be reasonable in your discussions. Ain't nobody being reasonable. You piss me off. I'm gonna just say it. You really upset me because you won't do XYZ for the wedding and you annoyed me, so automatically sets the wrong tone. It's premarital counseling. It's not just pre-marriage, right? It's really and truly about preparing you for getting married. And personally, I just think that in the state of engagement, it's very hard for you to be objective and to make sure that you guys are compatible on your core fundamental beliefs and values. So when do I actually do it, Paige? All right, here's what I would recommend. Here are some things that you can check off your list before you guys can talk about premarital counseling. One, I think that you guys should have reached a point where you are familiar with each other, you know each other's family, you have become comfortable with who you see them to be, and you really and truly believe that this is where the Lord is leading you. What's the next step? The next step then is to start talking about Where do you see us in a year, in 2 years? What is your timeline? Are you guys planning to get married within a year? Would you want to get married and wait it out probably 2 years based on financial situations or logistics, somebody not living here, so forth? No problem. Have the discussion, right? Talk about it and say, yeah man, I really and truly would want us to start moving that way. And then at that point you say, okay, when do you think would be a good time for us to start premarital counseling? And it's not pressuring him into, oh, you need to give me a ring. What it is doing is that it's showing that courtship should really and truly be a discussion about your pursuit of marriage. And so if that is the process from the very get-go, it means that you're having these discussions, and it's not like oh, don't have the discussion, don't like scare him. No, we're in this because we're pursuing marriage, so no one is going to be scared of having the discussion about when are we thinking to get married. That's a fair discussion, don't you think? And if you don't want to have the discussion about when, red flag. If you're in a courtship and he don't want to talk about when you guys are looking to get married, it ain't a courtship, because he clearly not pursuing marriage right now. At that point in time, once you guys have had the discussion, you guys are on the same page that yes, you see each other as potential mates, at that point, well, you know what, I think our next step is that we should seek some godly counsel. Boom, right there. Nobody can fault you for that. And also, I recommend that you let your counselor know. Say, we have not gotten engaged, but we really and truly see the benefit of doing premarital counseling ahead of time to ensure that this is where God would have us. Ain't no counselor gonna argue with that. You know why? It's better preparing you for marriage. Now, let me say this. I know that there are a lot of couples, the majority of couples do not do premarital counseling until after they've gotten engaged, and they go on to lead happy marriages. Is that possible? Of course it is. Duh, the people who don't even do premarital counseling and they have great marriages. I just don't recommend it. If you are on board with premarital counseling, you believe in it, you want to do it, this would be my suggestion to you. And you can take it or you can leave it. You can decide, yeah, that's not for us, and that's okay. I'm just giving my reasons of why it was beneficial to us and really and truly how it can benefit you in preparing to be married. I hope that you guys will go forward in your courtships and really and truly be purposeful about it, and let's do away with this fairy tale notion of how it has to be, but to really and truly prepare and plan to enter into marriage. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, please make sure that you give me a thumbs up, turn on your notifications, subscribe to my channel, and I am praying that the Lord will grant you an amazing journey as you pursue him in your pursuit of marriage. Thanks so much for watching Naturally Paige, guys, and I'll see you next time for another Wifey Wednesdays.